Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is our Rice News analyst, Emmnauel Efeni. Good morning, Emmnauel.
Good morning, Reuben. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Yusuf. Good morning, Tundun.
Special Did you say Yusuf? Did you say Yusuf?
Who's Yusuf?
You mean Rufai?
Rufai.
I get that a lot. A lot of people just look at me, oh, it's the guy with the Arab name.
Really?
I'm serious, I get that a lot.
Yes.
So that's Rufai. You join them.
Yes, good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
Yes. Now, let's start with these day newspapers as usual. The lead story. P&ID contract is scam. Can't stand. Federal government tells UK courts. And of course, the Daily Independent has a story from that court session. Daily Independent, P&ID, $10 billion award. Nigeria faces crucial battle today. Hearing is country's last chance against award. But let's just come back to this day. Yesterday, the lawyer to the Nigerian government, Mr. Mark Howard, made a very strong case that indeed this so-called contract was a scam ab initio. Well, I hope he will convince the judge. But sitting in this corner, Reuben, I cannot agree less with the lawyer representing Nigeria that this so-called contract was a scam ab initio. It was a plot to fleece Nigeria by this Irish businessman colluding with some government officials. And I think, well, the hearing continues today. We may not be able, a lawyer will be on this program later in the day. But I cannot agree less that indeed this is a clear case of scam. And yes, we are fighting this a bit late, but we'll fight it to a standstill, as it were, as a country. And I'm all for that, Reuben. Tundun.
Well, let's see what happens at the end of the day, but definitely the latest development is clearly consistent with the Nigerian government's determination to try to see how the previous judgment against Nigeria, that's the arbitration award, could be overturned. And, well, if we lose, I think there's still a window for us to go on further appeal. Look at that amount that was awarded against Nigeria. That's almost a significant percentage of the country's
foreign reserve. Foreign reserve.
Yes. So, but what is even more disturbing is that more details are beginning to come out about certain previously unknown payments that were made to certain individuals. And I guess that when the issue with the arbitration is resolved, we may still have a lot of people back home here having to answer some charges. Yes. Because this is clearly a case, as has been established, of economic sabotage. But of course, we cannot prejudge what the outcome will be at the High Court in London.
I tend to disagree with you slightly, Mr. Efeni, because you said that Nigeria sort of fought it a little bit too late. It's not a little bit, it was far too late. The initial judgment, the initial judgment was already massive at $6.6 billion. How we got to that over $9 billion is interest that was added. Yes. While we sat and folded our arms. Equity does not aid the indolent. This was extremely careless. There is that element of economic sabotage. The government might be able to establish that the contract was a scam, but there is that issue of indolence that cannot be avoided.
Well, I don't want to start spanking the child. Let's finish the battle outside. We'll come home and we'll deal with all that.
The question I'd like to ask you is, Mr. Efeni,
yes.
Do we stand a chance? Isn't this too late? Because we followed the story extensively. I had somebody, the registrar of, the arbitration body in Nigeria, Mrs. Oshodi, John. She was constantly, as she talked about, in fact, she even made mention of the fact that we have many more cases that have not come to the fore as regards contract scam and things like it. And she kept on saying, it's too late. It's like medicine after death. So can we really nix this? I've been saying the position we have put forward, said a lot of people were complicit in this. The project manager was complicit, was giving $50,000. But let's not forget, even if we win this, Over 200 million has gone down the drain that we had to deposit as a bond. What account are we going to write that? That money, $200 million, can build many schools, can build hospitals, can get more PPE as we fight COVID. So we shouldn't be here in the first place.
Yes, but let's be optimistic, Rufai.
Well, it's going to be live streamed. It's been live streamed from 10:30 this morning.
Yes.
I'll send you a link.
Okay, good. We'll follow
I have a link, yeah.
But just before we leave the front page of this day, I cannot leave this paper without the story above the masthead. It emanated from this program yesterday. I slapped Abiola, says ex-NDDC boss Nunai. Yes, that story has been trending all day. The salacious details has almost shut down the social media. I know OG will have so much to say about what is trending. But Reuben, thanks to Reuben and Tundun, your grilling yesterday, I have said I will stop using that phrase plan B because it acquired another meaning yesterday. For a long time, I won't use the term plan B. Because when it was, you pressed, what is this plan B?
I mean, that's why we're called the press, because we press.
And I
we
said,
press a lot for information.
For a long time, I will not use the term plan B so that nobody misinterprets my intentions.
But I think beyond all the drama,
yes.
The bigger concern is that, look, all the details we've been getting about goings on and, records at the Niger Delta Development Commission, those details are really very disturbing. And we hope that the long-term effect of some of these revelations will be a decision on the part of government to further probe the NDDC and to see exactly what has been transpiring in that place, where politics has been placed before development, the main objective of that particular commission itself. But I see that, a lot of people are entertained. We thoroughly entertained yesterday
yes.
By these revelations about slap and all that. And someone was asking me that, what was the variety of the slap? Was it hot or was it a dirty type of slap?
No, you know what?
Nigerians are something else.
Because she said, somebody pointed out to me that it was a really dirty slap. Because she didn't say slap, she said slap. I was like, emphasis on that it was dirty. That's what I was told.
Well, Reuben, I agree with you that...
What's a dirty slap?
Yes.
Apparently, like a really hard slap. That she had, there was some emphasis there.
What makes it dirty?
I haven't got a clue. This is what I was...
You know that kind of slap that can give you a blinding vision.
But what I want to know and what I asked was the future of the NDDC. Since we can all agree that the last 20 years was... well, underperformance, to put it politely. What happens next? There was a reason why this body was established, that people it's supposed to serve, that ecological emergencies in the Niger Delta.
Infrastructure.
Exactly.
Nothing to show on ground.
This is my issue. So for me, the accusations and counter-accusations, titillating though they may be, are somewhat beside the point.
And these two persons are from the Niger Delta with all these accusations flying back and
forth. Can you take another story?
Yes.
Because you look like you are beginning to over-enjoy the story.
No, the impact, on the Niger Delta, nothing on ground to show for billions allocated to that agency. Now, let's move on. Now, the newspapers are also reporting the updates on the coronavirus and a number of stories from the press briefing yesterday. The Nigerian Tribune, all Nigerians will get tested for COVID-19. PTF gives new guidelines for schools reopening, wants government meetings virtual till further notice. Federal government decision on WASC, not binding on state minister. 35 doctors have tested positive in Kwara, Nigerian Medical Association. 12 deaths recorded in Lagos within 24 hours. Of course, the Daily Trust has its own report from that briefing. Federal government scrambles for oxygen as COVID-19 deaths rise. 70 people die in 1 week. Nigeria needs 10,000 respirators, experts coronavirus now airborne, PTF. And of course, the Nation newspaper, yeah. PTF, airborne transmission, yes.
Well, sorry to interrupt you at this point. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll come back to you and the review will continue.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Arise News analyst Emmnauel Efeni, who has been reviewing some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world. Over to you, Emmnauel Efeni.
Yes, we're at the Nation newspaper, PTF, airborne transmission of coronavirus possible. Government cautions against mass gathering, electronic sharing of test results to start. Now, the New Telegraph, school owners to federal government will adhere strictly to protocols, urge government to reconsider WASC suspension. Federal government issues guidelines for schools resumption. Now, a number of talking points from the coronavirus briefing yesterday. But the issue of schools reopening, new guidelines without dates. But the Southwest governors are meeting today to consider reopening of schools. There was a statement made by the Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuiba, that the declaration by the minister that unity schools will not participate in the writing of WASC, West African Senior School Certificate Examination, does not apply to states. Well, I will want to hear from the minister, because the last time the Minister of State made a pronouncement, the minister came a few days later to counter what he has said. But if that is the case, it means states, individual states can make their own decisions to reopen their schools and participate in the writing of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination.
I think, Mr. Efeni, caution is the word. I like to quote Jack Ma about when he talked about COVID. He said, let's forget 2020. He said 2020 is the year for staying alive. He said, forget your dreams and aspirations. He says, if you can make it through 2020, you can start thinking your dreams and aspirations and everything in 2021. But 2020 is the year of staying alive. We lose semesters in university due to strikes. The world will not fall if we lose terminal exams due to COVID. Let's be careful.
But the question to ask is, what is it that is new that the Minister of Education is talking about, or the Minister of State for Education? Because, I mean, there isn't much that is new. The other time, the Minister of Education said very clearly that it's better to keep the children safe. And so many people were excited about that. And you recall that at the time, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, the Nigerian Medical Association, the Nigerian Labour Congress, and even some other stakeholders.
Even the Nigerian Union of Teachers.
Yes, advised against the reopening of schools. When I look at the list of statements, the list of issues that the minister referred to, the only thing that I think it's new there, in my view, is the reference to funding requirements to be worked out by the federal government for the upgrading of schools. And I get these are, schools owned by the federal government. And you will recall that one of the issues raised by ASU was, look, if you are going to upgrade the schools or send students back to school, who is going to be responsible for the resources that may be necessary? So that, I think, for me, is the new angle to it. But I still guess that, the mood out there is that it's better to keep the children safe than to rush and regret later.
But the point some are making, and which we cannot also ignore, is that if students who in graduating classes are the only ones going back to school, then there should be enough space for distancing.
This is what I thought initially, but maybe there's not enough teaching staff to enforce that, because you can try and put children in different classrooms, but if there's nobody to supervise them, they might end up huddled in a corner or whatever. You know how children are. So I guess they feel they can't trust that arrangement.
Well, we'll still continue with this conversation.
What the National Association of Proprietors of Schools, what they said when they came up with their own protocol was that, look, students will not go to school at the same time. One particular set will maybe resume at 8 o'clock. Another set will come at 10 so that there will be no congestion. But what one of the things the minister said is that, look, classes should be in small groups. But the challenge is, would these schools have the capacity to manage the process and the logistics involved? COVID-19 being something that nobody has a prior expertise in.
So I don't think they'll have the
So we should err on
to...
the side of caution.
No,
It's always best.
Yes, but I don't think they have the capacity to manage COVID-19. Let's not forget they've not earned revenue in a while, most especially the private schools. The government schools rely on government subventions. We saw a teacher crying yesterday about how teachers have not been paid. So, and a lot of them that are even doing online classes are not charging for it. So I don't see where they're going to get the revenue from. That's why we need to be extra careful.
And we must not forget that people who contract COVID-19 and recover have long-lasting symptoms that remain. It's not something you shrug off like the common cold or like your random sore throat. It's an actually serious disease.
Yeah, some people,
and we have to avoid it. We have to just avoid it. Teachers and students need to be safe, first and foremost.
Okay, let's move on. Of course, the Magu investigation is still on. And two newspapers, the Vanguard newspaper and the Sun newspaper, have that story from that investigation as their lead. The Sun newspaper first, security seals Magu's office, withdraws official bulletproof SUVs. Panel demands proof of spending on staff foreign training. Why I can't release suspended EFCC chair IGP, that's the Inspector General of Police. Kaduna pastor dismisses link with him. Then the Vanguard newspaper, Day 6, panel quizzes Magu on 700 million training fund. Panel orders Magu's offices in Abuja, Lagos, locked up. 18 of his aides also locked out of their offices. 3 bulletproof SUVs recovered from him. Panel arrest operative seizes computers. Well, that investigation is still on. Magu is still being detained. No bail yet for him. And yesterday we insisted he still has rights. He should be granted bail, although he did not consider bail an issue when grilling people as EFCC boss. But he should be given his full rights. He has not been convicted. He has not been convicted, so he should be granted bail.
Human beings.
Tundun, you agree with me? There is no karma in law. That's what you were lecturing me yesterday.
Yeah. I'm amused that you just never fail to miss the opportunity to remind us of Magu's transgressions in that regard.
I want to ask you don't say my question is funny. I think pressmen are not allowed to go to the venue of the investigative panel.
True.
How are we getting all these scoops?
Sources.
What are the sources?
Sources.
What are the sources?
Some reliable, others not very reliable.
So I think all of this still remains in the realm of allegation now as we speak, because if pressmen are not allowed there, so we don't know how true all of these things are. Are these the things we are talking about? Because we keep getting all these scoops from Magu every day.
So you are saying people should take these stories with a pinch of the salt?
I will take it with a pinch of salt. It still remains in the realm of allegation. Except I see a report from the panel that itemized all of this. Because these sources and sources and sources, sometimes it's like too much
at the end of the day, I'm sure that the investigative panel of inquiry will do its report.
Yeah.
And the government will decide on what to do on the basis of the findings. But some of the stories we've been reading in the papers, there have been deniers. Names of persons have been mentioned as associates or as persons who have been used as conduit or whatever. And I think it's something that we all must be careful about so that we avoid that error, which I identified early when this matter started, of trial by media. You may say that in the past, some other government agencies, including the EFCC, have been accused of trial by media, but it doesn't make it right. So these are still allegations. And I think the panel should be allowed to do its work and conclude it, and for government to take a decision instead of the court of opinion running ahead of the court of law.
True, no doubt about that. Let's move over to the foreign newspapers. The Daily Mail of UK, £100 fine if you don't wear a mask in shops. Yes, that is the new rule in the UK.
Very good. Effective
from July 24, and the shop staff are not the ones to enforce it, but the police.
Very good.
Yes, and it's part of the measures put in place, and I think Boris Johnson is really thinking ahead, unlike his very good friend Donald Trump across the Atlantic. He has made, at least the message is clear, that people should wear masks, unlike what President Trump has been doing. So it's one addition to protection, distancing, wearing a face mask. So from July 24, that is going to be the new norm before you enter any shop in the UK.
I think a similar fine should be imposed here too, in Nigeria.
Yes.
And not just for individuals, even for shop owners that do not enforce the wearing of masks. And also, you know, you go to any of our open markets, people have stopped wearing masks. They did it for maybe a week or so, but now I've even seen people now shaking hands in public. And I think that, look, we have to save the people from themselves. And government will need to put its feet down. Otherwise, the death rate, the positivity rate, and the casualty rate will just continue to increase.
If you drive around certain areas in Lagos, you will ask yourself, have they heard of COVID-19? Because everything is just normal. True. They are hugging, they are shaking, they are doing bawoni and hugging one another. And,
what do you mean they are doing bawoni? Maybe they are doing a Negro.
That is the local language.
Omagari.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's a good one from the UK. Maybe we have some lessons to learn there. But it's the police that is enforcing there, not the shop owner.
And so the
but then they had mixed messages, didn't they? Remember, Michael Gove said nobody is going to be compelled to wear a mask. Boris Johnson comes out in a mask saying everybody should wear a mask.
No, but with this, at least when you are going for shopping, you are going to a public place.
Yeah, Michael Gove initially said that even in a shop, you will not need to wear a mask.
But I think this supersedes that.
It does, but the point I'm trying to make is that the same as here, when we had the conflicting messages from the Minister of State and the Minister of Education, they should liaise properly, decide before going public.
Well, I think what scares me the most about here will be how the police will enforce this. You know, the enforcement from the police.
Yeah.
We've seen killings, you know, extrajudicial killings due to COVID-19 in the spirit of enforcing COVID-19 laws. So, which I think is very wrong. So if you say a fine, would the police take POS machines around and collect the money from you or collect cash?
You know, in one of these states in the north, I think it's Kaduna State, they have a task force, and at a point, I think they set up a mobile court to, you know, arrest people who are not complying with the guidelines.
Abuja
and then find them right there on the spot. Then your point about police high-handedness, yes, because we have taken stories on this program of the police, you know, rough handling a pregnant woman on the basis of not, you know, using a face mask.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's go to Washington, the Wall Street Journal, and the lead story: California orders rollback of reopening as cases surge. Yes, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, imposed sweeping restrictions in response to the rising case. New surge in COVID-19. Businesses just reopened, but a number, indoor businesses, restaurants, bars, museums, zoos, movie theaters.
Okay, Mr. Efeni, I would like to thank you so much for your time, you know, for coming out and doing this with us. Thank you so much for your time.